Get ready to rise above the noise and unlock your true potential. Welcome to Unapologetic Uplift, the podcast that's all about keeping it real and helping you live your best life.
I'm Kim Staples, and I'm thrilled to be joined by my beautiful co-host, Ianthe Mauro, on this journey of unapologetic growth and transformation.
Together, we share unfiltered thoughts, practical strategies, and advice on manifesting without the fluff, encouraging you to prioritize self-care physically, emotionally, and energetically so you can make things happen without making yourself sick.
In a world that often tells you to dim your light, we're here to help you shine brighter than ever and be seen in your best light. Join us as we dive into the art and science of living unapologetically and reaching your full potential.
Buckle up. Get ready to learn, grow, and evolve with us on Unapologetic Uplift. New episodes released weekly.
Welcome to episode 6 of Unapologetic Uplift. I'm your host, Kim Staples, joined by my co-host, Ianthe Mauro. Today, we are delving into the topic of unconditional love versus unconditional tolerance. I see a lot of people struggling to set boundaries that protect themselves in loving relationships, and it is something that I have also struggled with. So I am excited to dive right into this today.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was on my heart. Recently, I had an incredible, very deep conversation with my husband because he insisted that he didn't believe in unconditional love. And we're going to go there. But I first, as we like to do on Unapologetic Uplift, we're going to start by setting an intention on a candle. So with that, I am now setting this intention for all of us, anyone within the sound of my voice right now or ours, that you feel truly unconditionally loved by yourself.
It is. So, what does it mean to love unconditionally? I think a lot of people do confuse unconditional love with unconditional tolerance. We're allowed to have boundaries to protect ourselves. We need to have these boundaries in place. And unconditional love, it has nothing to do with unconditional tolerance. Unconditional love is loving without judgment, loving without expectation, and loving without attachment to a specific outcome, in my opinion. What does it mean for you, Ianthe?
Yeah, well, I'm completely in agreement about the really rough thing that we tend to do to ourselves is having an expectation and an attachment to things having to be a certain way, people having to behave a certain way, love us in a certain way. And you might be hearing this and thinking, well, how can I not do that? I really, really want these things. Yes, of course you do. And the hard work is in all of this is that in order to get those things that we're clearly really wanting and desiring, it requires us to embody and be that thing, not force someone else to do it for us. So unconditional love to me is a kind of, this will sound maybe weird, but there's a detachment involved. And there's a way of saying it in the 12-step program called Al-Anon, which is for codependent recovery. They say, practice loving detachment. That is what unconditional love is. Loving detachment means what you're not doing is you're not hating the person. You're not making them wrong. You're not despising them. You're not wishing them harm. You're also aware that loving them in real time, in real life, has been hurting you. It hasn't been filling you. It hasn't been nourishing you. It's not giving you what you need. The realization of that can be very hard. And there can be grief around that too. Like, wow, this person that I love and have loved, I feel like turning my love off to them and not loving them anymore because they're hurting me. They're not getting me. They're not giving me what I need. And that's where the detachment comes in. You can still love them without letting them hurt you, without putting yourself in harm's way, without going back again. There was an analogy I heard once that was, if there's an animal and it's very hurt, you have a hurt animal, you've caught it in a cage, it's a wild animal. So let's just say you have a hurt raccoon, an injured raccoon. All of us know, immediately I'm thinking like these very, very scary claws, their teeth, these things. An injured raccoon is not to be messed with. However, on a certain level, on a very high level, you love this being and you want this being to heal. Are you going to put your hand in the cage while it's injured? No, you know what will happen if you do? Wow, you'll likely lose your hand. Maybe it'll go for your eyes before you can even shut the gate. I mean, there's so many things that can go wrong there and you can get terribly hurt, but it doesn't mean you don't love that animal. So how can we energetically do that with people that we love? When they're hurt and injured and lashing out, no, we're not going to put our hand in the cage, metaphorically speaking. We're not going to go and say, oh, let me just take care of you. How can I? And I've been guilty of this, which is why I'm able to say it. I'm not saying you do this, Kim, or you listening. I'm saying I've done this. I have put my hand in that cage and gotten myself hurt because I refused to have the protection around myself and the awareness that my loving them in that real time, in the way that I needed and not paying attention to where they were, was only going to get me hurt. But it didn't mean that I had to turn my love off.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my long explanation of what unconditional love means to me.
I love that. I love the raccoon analogy. That is so perfect. And I hear you, not just this episode, but some other episodes that we've had as well, talk about the 12 steps. And I think you said it was Al-Anon.
Yeah, Al-Anon is free to everyone across the world. If you're interested in it, it's Alanon, and it's codependency anonymous. So obviously I'm outing myself. It's an anonymous program that I've been in and out of since 1993. And I would love to do an episode where we invite someone on who's a real seasoned expert in that world and have them explain more. I don't feel like I'm in that position, but I will say I have benefited so much from that program.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It's something that I often think that I could benefit from as well. So you are inspiring me to look more into it. And I just love that raccoon analogy because it's so perfect. The misconception, I think, often lies with enabling, the lack of boundaries. It's, if I love this person, I have to be there for them and support them through, let's talk about addiction, for example. This is something that I have been dealing with my entire life, with loving people that struggle with addiction. And it's a really tricky one because we feel like I love this person so much and I want them to be healthy and I want to help them get better. But oftentimes they can really, really take advantage of that wanting to help. They can ask us for money. Maybe they don't respect our boundaries and they often come around us under the influence when we have asked them not to. This is something that I am currently actually going through with one of my sons, one of my adult sons. And it's like, I love you. I have these boundaries in place to protect myself and my energy. Because if I allow you to be around me when you're in this state, it's harmful for me. It's traumatic. And there is always drama and all kinds of things that can spiral out of control. But it can be so hard when you love this person so much to say, you can't be around me if you're going to be in that condition. There are so many big emotions that come into play with that. And we can gaslight ourselves into believing that loving them unconditionally means we accept all of them. And we are going to tolerate this because we love them so much.
First of all, massive acknowledgement to you, Kim, and to anyone listening that has someone that you love right now that is suffering with addiction. It is so ugly and difficult and painful to witness, and to be strong enough to have the boundaries to know that not only is it about protecting you, but it's also protecting the addict from worse behavior that they're just going to regret later and feel even worse about themselves when they wake up from the stupor and realize, wow, I did that to my mom. I'm the worst person. I guarantee you every addict already has a very heinous, disgusting, evil self-talk. And the beauty of loving detachment, the beauty of unconditional love with someone who's an addict, and it is so hard to do it with someone that we love that's close to us like a child. I can't even imagine. And I have experienced that with a child that's not biologically mine. But the beauty is knowing that we don't give up on them in spirit. And this might sound woo-woo, this might sound odd. I don't care. We're unapologetic uplift for a reason. So unapologetically, I want to describe what I mean when I say spirit, love them in spirit. When you visualize and picture, we have a very strong imagination, and our imagination is directly connected to, that is our spirit world, because the spirit world isn't something you can touch or see with your physical eyes. So then how do you describe it? Well, you can describe it as imagination. That's a very easy way for us to understand, right? So if you go into your imagination and you imagine wrapping your mama arms around your child who's suffering when you can't take a phone call from them because they're going to spew evil that later they're going to regret, that's going to hurt you and ruin your day. But you can wrap those arms around them virtually. You can think in your mind, you can see them, you can watch and see, where are they right now? How can I hold them tight? How can I shower them in loving embrace, my mothering loving embrace? And please, if this is your partner, you can change the visualization to whoever it is. If this is a friend of yours, you can love them so hard in spirit, which is just through visualizing with your imagination what it looks like to love them purely at their purest, at their pure heart level, without all the bullshit behavior, because we are made up of many, many parts. And you mentioned that, but the part of them that's suffering to the point where they're using and abusing a substance, or substances plural, is not something that we can dance with. We can't play with that side. We can't. It's not safe. That's the raccoon. We will lose our hands and eyes at the very least.
Yeah. It's a dangerous, dangerous game.
I wanted just to also let you know that I felt too that I'm afraid to not help them when they're in this horrible place. I have stopped myself from what I know is right, which is to take care of myself first, put my oxygen on first, be safe, and all of that. And I have put my hand in the raccoon cage too many times too.
Yeah.
To count. So I
Me
want you to
too.
know, and it's what I hope that this podcast can do for people, because it's what I want it to do for me selfishly. And I'm sure you agree, Kim, is that we need to remind ourselves these things that we already know intellectually. This may not be new information for any of us, but it doesn't mean that we don't need reminders and need better and clearer ways. Maybe we're hearing it differently today. Maybe we're able to fully, I always think of it as we have the thought, and that's the intellectual part where we know consciously what we're not going to do and what we want to do. And then we have the way that it has to go through all of these filters. We have all of our ancestors that come in with their voices and the experiences that they've had that live in our body, our DNA, right? Then we have what's happening right in front of us. What are we having to do today? What's on my calendar? What can I take on? Then we have all of the patterns and things that we've learned, both positive and negative, throughout our lives. So we basically have all of these filters to get through to finally do the right thing, or the highest and best thing for us. So giving yourself grace. Don't think that just because I talk about this stuff that I am an authority and that I do it all right, because I don't.
I don't know anybody that does. I think anybody that says that they do this perfectly is full of it. And this is in any relationship, not just with addicts, with people that take advantage, with people that are abusive, with people that are toxic. We do not owe tolerance for shitty behavior to anybody.
I want
When
to say that again loud. Go ahead. We do not owe tolerance. This is going to be my next fee. You do not owe tolerance to
for shitty behavior.
Yes.
To anyone.
What she said.
Or you do not
Yes.
owe anyone tolerance for shitty behavior. And when we do not stay firm in protecting our energy and holding boundaries, and we do tolerate these energy vampires, it creates emotional exhaustion and a slew of other issues.
Ooh, emotional exhaustion is real. I'm exhausted thinking about it. I think about times when I've been emotional exhaustion. It is real. It's when we're doing that work, all this work that we're doing to try to protect ourselves, right? And to use our tools.
Yeah, we have to choose wisely. And I'm at this point in my life, for me, it is about my peace. So I'm going to protect my energy at all costs. And there's two things I ask myself of every relationship. Is my energy protected? And is this nourishing my soul? So if somebody is draining my energy and there is no nourishment for my soul, it's a hard pass for me.
I wrote that down. Is my energy protected? Is this nourishing my soul? I think those are such amazing questions for everyone to ask. And what's interesting is how much I'm just thinking for myself, I've been willing to tolerate a lot of behavior that didn't nourish my soul because I thought audaciously, well, they need me. Oh, that's the trick, that's the trick. Like, oh, and it's funny because I'm honestly, I have a level of embarrassment in even admitting that out loud because I have lots of judgment around that kind of, it's like under the guise of I'm just being helpful, I'm actually being audacious. And that's the shadow work that I've been doing on myself for years, is noticing because a lot of feedback I've had in my life is you're so helpful. I get that. You're very nurturing, Ianthe. It's so nice to be in your presence. I feel so safe in your presence. I feel helped. And I want that to be true. And I'm so grateful when I hear that feedback because it is a very high value of mine to be that for people, to certainly not rob people of their energy, to certainly not make an unsafe space. I mean, what's the opposite of being nourishing? It would be robbing you of things, right? I never want to do that. But it has sometimes even tricked me, and maybe this is a form of gaslighting or something. I don't even know what to call it or if it needs a name. But I've tricked myself into thinking, well, I'm going to nourish them whether they like it or not. And I'm not getting anything for it. And they're not asking me for it. And that's the part so the unconditional love would be, first of all, for myself, forgiving myself for doing that. And you can tell, like, it's bringing up emotion in me right now because I don't like that in myself. And I know that doesn't make me bad. And I know to forgive myself and I know to give myself grace, but I still don't like it when I do it.
It results in being hurt. And it can teeter very quickly over to codependency.
That's right? My in and out of that system from decades.
Yeah. And it's not, but I love this vulnerable share because these things don't just go away. It doesn't matter how much work we do on ourselves and how much healing we do. We have to remain self-aware. And this is a huge part of the boundary setting, right? And even when we are intentional about it, we inherently want to help. You are incredibly nurturing. You are incredibly helpful. And you find joy in that. You're not doing that for transactional reasons. You don't look at relationships as transactional. And that is the thing I love most about you.
Thank you.
And this is something I've been reflecting on a lot because I find most people, especially in business, are networking for transactional purposes. And I don't want transactional relationships. I want transformational relationships where we're coming to the table with great energy. And because I love your energy so much, and I think you are just such a beautiful human, I want to show up and do what I can to make your life better. And naturally, when I make your quality of life better, it's going to positively affect me too. I am not coming into a relationship with you like, what can Ianthe do for me? And unfortunately, there aren't very many people that I feel that from in this day and age.
Yeah, that's so important to point out. And thank you so much for what you said. I really appreciate it. I agree. I don't even know anymore how to do transactional relationships, to the point where sometimes I maybe miss opportunities because I don't even see it. But I'm fine with that. I remember the feeling of, what can this person do for me? It's such an empty feeling, and it doesn't work for me. Everybody's different though. And the thing is, beautiful if you're finding that transactional relationships work for you, and that's a very important thing for you, and you found that to be a safe place for yourself to go. I mean, great. It is absolutely not for me, like what you said, Kim. And I love how you said not transactional but transformational. I love thinking of it that way too. And I want, the nourishing that I give to others, and I'm back to feeling like emotion coming up, but I'm craving nourishment right now for myself. And so I want unconditional love, and I don't want people to hold me to standards that I have to be perfect to keep and uphold. I will be imperfect. I will be unapologetically imperfect. I will make mistakes. And what I want is to surround myself with people who have the grace to allow me to get it wrong and love me anyway.
Mm.
And I feel like because I know my part in this, and that's another thing, everyone. Hello, welcome to What's My Part in It? That could be our game show. What's my part in it? If you're not asking yourself that question a lot, you're missing out on incredible opportunities to get to know your shadow and to grow. So in asking what's my part in it, I think that I don't notice and recognize a lot of the time that how I'm not allowing people to nourish me as much as I really need. So,
Yeah, I could be guilty of that too. I think.
because we're good at giving, right? When you're good at giving for everybody, you know that saying, check on your strong friends? That's Kim, and that's Ianthe, and that's a lot of you listening right now.
Yeah, totally. Especially when you're in a helping profession, right? You really take that on, and it can be challenging. We kind of get in the habit of not asking for help from other people. Or when people come to nourish us, we tell them, I'm okay, I'll be fine. So, something that I have really been challenging clients inside the Divine Activation membership to do is, as part of showing up authentically, is saying, I'm not okay when I'm not okay, or saying, I feel this way. And this is something that I am intentionally doing too. So if you ask me how I'm doing, be prepared for the truth.
Yeah. And we're talking about unconditional love, and you see what I love about having conversations with you, Kim, is it can go into so many different places and feel like it's not on topic in a way. This is all part of unconditional love. When you love yourself unconditionally, you're willing to look at the hard stuff that you're doing without making yourself bad, punishing yourself. There's no room for that. We have no time for that. The world is moving too quickly. We're on a spinning ball or whatever you believe we're on. We're somewhere where we don't have a lot of control. And so what we can control is unconditionally loving all of the parts of ourselves, even the very unlovable, seemingly unlovable, yucky parts, messy parts, ugly parts. I think we show you that hopefully every episode. I'm just so grateful, Kim. I mean, I hope that we show also in real time what it looks like to be a good friend, because you are such a good friend. And I know that I get to fully be every part of myself. And we even had a moment, there was a moment when we had a point where we don't even need to bring it up because it doesn't matter the details, but there was like a kerfluffle for a minute. And I like that word because it's very non-judgmental. It was like a little, ooh, there was something uncomfortable. And then we just went head on into it. And we healed it so quickly that I'm telling you, everyone, the details don't matter. I feel so safe to be in friendship with you because of that. And I know that no matter what, you allow me to be me unapologetically. And I love you too.
And yeah, I feel the same way. I feel unconditionally loved by you, and I feel safe And yeah, I think we've proven to each other just throughout our friendship and things that we've experienced that we can be 100% who we are, even if it's not our finest moment. And I think also because we both take that radical self responsibility and there's no expectation of the other to fix it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And we get to do very different things and make different choices in life. Like you and we have very different ways of being, and yet at the core, very, very similar. So I think it's nice too. Part of unconditional love is not requiring the person that you're in relationship to be exactly like you and like all the things that you like, but to actually recognize and notice who they truly are and what lights them up.
Yeah. Yeah. I want all of my friends to be different because it's interesting, right? Like, I don't want to be surrounded by people that are exactly like me. I think that would be so boring,
I know.
personally.
No, it's so true. And I remember one of the greatest compliments I received was a friend who came to, I used to have a circle of support group for makers, people that craft and create things, products, right? And it was maybe a group of, I want to say at its height, there might have been 27 members. And I remember bringing in a guest to speak to them. And the guest told me afterwards that what surprised them wasn't the level of the quality of the listening in the group or the quality of the showing up. It was how everybody looked so different. It amazed her because she expected somehow to come in and see everybody sort of they're all me. We're all she was like, wow, everybody was so themselves and they were all so different from you. And I took that as a great compliment because I don't want to fall into that thing of I'm only comfortable around people that are just like me. Like you, I really love to be challenged by all sorts of different kinds of people, all cultures. Again, when we think about our DNA, which I mentioned earlier, oh wow, I mean, very few of us have just one thing in our DNA. We have so many things. And when I did do one of those things. It wasn't the 23andMe, but it was another one that showed DNA. And I was really surprised because, we can ask our parents and they can say, oh, we're these three things, and then you do the research and you find out I'm like 80 things.
Yeah.
And that's so beautiful. We're all so connected, just even on a cellular level, without even the spiritual connections that we have by being human beings. But it's fascinating. So to rob ourselves of the opportunity to be around all different kinds of people and be open to learning from how different people are and be interested in and curious is, to me, just missing something. It could potentially be missing something very rich that can be there for all of us if we are open.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people want to be exclusive in terms of perceived success or these transactional relationships. For me, I'm absolutely exclusive in terms of who I allow in. But again, it has nothing to do with how much money you make, your perceived level of success, or the clout you might be able to offer me, or any of those things. For me, it is your heart. It is who you be, not what you can offer me. And boils back to how you make me feel, how my energy feels in your presence, and if it's nourishing my soul.
And I want to acknowledge something too, because I'm feeling there is a fear that comes up, I think, for people. If you're hearing this and thinking, well, that sounds great, but I need to keep the lights on and I need food on the table and I need gas in my car and I need to take care of my family. So how can I not be transactional? We are not saying, I'm going to say we, you can definitely say it if I'm getting it wrong. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I will say this is not saying to not charge your worth, to not charge for things that you are doing, that is your work, your sweat, your vision, all of that, because those are energetic exchanges and we do all need to put food on the table and we do actually need to have even more than stability. I'd like for everyone to have a feeling of the peace that comes with knowing that you can take care of yourself and your family on a very practical way, in a very practical way. So we're not saying that that's wrong. There's no way that I'm saying that that's wrong. And that's not the same as friendship. That is transaction that has to occur in order for us to survive. some of your friends may want to be some of your greatest transactional partners too. And they want to support you and pay for your memberships and pay for your products and pay for your time. And that's wonderful. And that's not the same.
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I'm not making anybody wrong for anything. For me personally, I build relationships as relationships. So I will have friends that are clients and clients that are friends. My human design, I'm a 2-4, 4 being the people person, and relationships are really important to me. I don't really know how to have relationships that are purely transactional. That doesn't mean there aren't transactions that take place within my relationships. So I don't want to do business with somebody that I wouldn't consider being friends with. I don't want to be friends with somebody that I wouldn't consider doing business with. And I'm not judging anybody. If you want to keep your personal and professional lives completely separate and that works for you and that feels nourishing, that doesn't work for me because I am going to unapologetically be authentic 100% of the time. And I don't want to wear a professional mask and a personal mask. And for me, that just doesn't work. Yeah, I think that in relationships, we can have transactions without the relationship being.
I am in so much agreement. And I want to say too that I love working with my friends. I welcome it. I love it. And often the people that I work with become friends if we weren't to begin with. So I don't know how to do that thing of don't work with family and friends. I work with family and friends. And
Yeah.
I really love it.
And I think
Yeah.
a lot of it boils down to integrity too, right? Like if you know what you're doing in the world is with full integrity and it's amazing and it could help one of your friends, then what's the problem?
Yeah. And how they're already your friend, then you want to spend time with them if they're your friend. So why not spend time and also create abundance together?
Okay. Boundaries. Let's talk a little bit about boundaries in relationships because a lot of people I feel like think having boundaries is about being selfish and it isn't about being selfish. It's about being self-aware and protecting yourself from harm.
And you are the person to go to, in my opinion, for reminders about boundaries. I really want you to speak a little bit more to this because it's one of the things that you're so good at. I remember seeing one of your early videos when I first met you. You did something around boundaries and it really, your perspective was so refreshing and it made me feel so much better. Boundaries are hard for those of us that have codependency issues because we feel like we're hurting the other person by creating a boundary to protect us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's why before we even look at setting and asserting boundaries with other people, we need to have firm boundaries in place with ourselves that are put in place to protect our energy. And once we master that, then we can start looking at boundaries with other people. And what it really boils down to is our personal values. So a lot of times people will try and set boundaries because they think that this boundary should be in place because they've heard other people have these boundaries or it seems like the right thing to do, but it isn't really aligned with their values. So you have to first know what your values are, figure that out first and foremost, and then go from there. And while you are creating boundaries, make sure they are in alignment with those values because what's the point of setting a boundary like people can only call me if they've been invited to do so, for example. I don't know, I'm just pulling this out of thin air. But really, you love when people surprise you with phone calls, things like this, because you've heard or you think that things should be a certain way based on some unwritten rule somewhere. I think in terms of boundary, loving someone does not mean sacrificing your well-being.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. And I think that another beautiful thing about boundaries is the more that we practice them, like anything else, the better we get at them. So if you feel like it feels impossible, try little ones. You don't have to do big, giant boundaries at first, because we tend to, I think, when we overcorrect, when we're excited about a new thing we're learning or a new skill or a way of being that we want to improve, we tend to overcorrect. And then the boundaries can come out really too harsh. It's like, well, I want a boundary, but I don't have to do a boundary like, that. It didn't have to come out like that. And so little ones, like, I'm not going to answer the phone after 7 p.m. at night. Oh, wow. What if you do that? Because it really helps you and your nervous system. That's wonderful. And you know what? If people are upset about that, they're upset about it. It's a boundary, and that's okay. They'll deal with it. And then you hold that boundary, and you don't have to say it in a way of like, don't you dare call me after 7 o'clock. No, it's just, I've figured out that my energy is so much better when I don't answer the phone after 7 p.m. And of course, that's a random one I'm making up. For me, it would be after 10 p.m. By the way, those of you listening that call me, I probably won't answer after 10 p.m.
Yeah. And like you just used a beautiful example of using I statements rather than you, right? So making it about yourself rather than making it about the other person when setting a boundary. I have set this boundary for myself because it protects me and my energy and allows me to be my best.
I'm glad
you don't have to say anything about the other person, right?
No, I'm so glad you pointed that out, because that is one of the beautiful tools that I was saying you give. And knowing that the I statement, which sounds so silly, it sounds like it's something we teach our kids on the playground in order to be a good friend. But a lot of these lessons that we teach our children work for us as adults. We never outgrow needing more lessons, more growth. I hope we never outgrow that. And so I statements, which is literally starting the sentence with I, fill in the blank, I am uncomfortable when I get a phone call past 10 p.m. because I know that I'm not at my best then. I'm a morning person. That's not making the other person wrong. It's having a boundary, and it's allowing them, it's beautiful communication, because it's giving an opportunity. Because believe me, there will be people that still call you past 10 p.m. That's on them. And then if you break your own boundary, get ready for the repercussions of that, how that's going to feel in your body. Also, like I say, unapologetic, we're imperfect beings. We can also get it wrong. There might be a day when I do want to answer after 10 p.m. Maybe I'm making an exception, and you're also allowed to change your mind, and you're allowed to have exceptions to your own rules.
Yeah, absolutely. And unconditional love, the foundation of unconditional love is self-love and self-compassion. So by being kind to ourselves, by setting boundaries, putting boundaries in place to protect ourselves, it actually proves to ourselves on a subconscious level that we value ourselves enough to protect ourselves. And this is massive in terms of cultivating self-worth, self-confidence, and self-love.
Oh, I love that. And I'm looking down at my paper at the gems that have dropped here today. I see, is my energy protected? Is this nourishing my soul when I'm thinking about people to be in relationship with? Loving detachment and practicing that, which is using our imagination to love them when we can't in real time. And knowing and reminding ourselves that we are afraid to not help those, especially with addiction, when they come to us in a total state, but to remember the analogy of the raccoon that's injured and how it will just hurt us, and how important boundaries are. It protects not just us, but it protects the people from doing us more harm, which then eventually will probably, if they have a soul, find them feeling worse about themselves. And why do we want to give them an opportunity to feel worse about themselves? So boundaries are important for not only us, but the person that's wanting to cross them. And it just gives them space to not hurt anymore when we have good boundaries. And how doing business with friends and family is something that is completely up to you and totally available to you. If it's something that works for you, happens to be something that works for Kim and I. We're showing you right now through this podcast. We were friends first, and we're doing a podcast together. And non-transactional rather than transactional, we are looking for transformational relationships and friendships. So this episode has been so good for me for reminders. And I thank you again, Kim. And for those of you that are hanging with us here on Unapologetic Uplift, I want to invite you that if there's some subject that is on your heart that you would love to hear us hash out, or if you are interested in a certain guest being with us, or if you're listening thinking, I want to have this conversation with you too, I want to get in there and dive in with you, then let us know. And what's the best way for people to let us know, Kim? What do you think is the best way for people to reach out to us?
Probably on our Unapologetic Uplift Instagram page.
Yes, you can comment on one of the posts or you can DM us and we will always respond.
Yeah, absolutely. And just one last reminder that I would like to offer in terms of unconditional love is that when you are able to love yourself, it allows you to be more capable to love others without condition.
Yeah. So episodes about how we love ourselves more that's coming because we can't remind ourselves enough. We are all such sensitive beings and so much coming at us. To be able to deepen our love of ourselves and know how to do that and have the skills, tools, and ability and practice to do that, I personally want.
Yeah, I think we all could benefit from it.
So I know that others do. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, if that's something you'd like us to delve into, let us know. And please leave us a review. When you leave reviews, it helps us to get put out to more people, offers us more exposure. And if you're enjoying this podcast, share it with a friend. Tell a friend about it. And make sure you are subscribed and that you have notifications on so that you don't miss a thing.
Thank you. And have a beautifully, unapologetically uplifting rest of your day or night.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on Unapologetic Uplift. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share the love and tell a friend about us, and give us a review.
Please don't miss a thing. Subscribe to this podcast and explore our sponsors, Objects with Purpose, Eco Luxury Candles, and Divine Activation membership.
Objects with Purpose is more than an eco-luxury candle brand. They are time travel devices in the form of a candle. Light the 3 wicks representing past, present, and future with the validation that you are exactly where you need to be. And if you're ready to raise your level of consciousness and step into your unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era, join the Divine Activation membership at cuttingties.coach/queen. With 3 tiers to choose from, you'll find the perfect fit to support your transformation.
Thank you for your listening and love. We'll see you next Wednesday on Unapologetic Uplift.
Welcome to the Divine Activation membership, a movement for women that are ready to raise their consciousness and step into their unapologetic, unfiltered, and unbothered era.
With your heart, live authentically and become the magnet for all of your soul's desire.
Grow, connect with your heart and body, release unhealthy and unhelpful thought patterns, heal old wounds, create new neural pathways, and reprogram your subconscious with high-value beliefs so you can manifest the life you're meant for.
Ready to take a break from what's holding you back? Visit cuttingties.coach and join the Divine Activation membership today. Hey, unapologetic souls. I'm Ianthe Mauro, founder of Objects with Purpose, candles that touch the soul and the body. I've released a limited edition 3-wick candle collection in 3 fragrances inspired by a time in history. The Time Travel Collection, because scent evokes memory and lighting a candle can truly transport you to your highest self. Anytime.
Ianthe's candles are truly special, clean, safe, even for the body as a solid perfume or massage oil, and smell amazing. But what truly fills her heart is empowering others to be seen in their best light.
In 2020, when the 200 stores that sold my candles across the country closed their doors, I knew it was time to give back. I started guiding others to launch their own candle companies and design candles and fragrances for other brands as a way to share light in a dark time.
So why settle for just any conventional candle? Light the 3 wicks in each Objects with Purpose candle. You're supporting handmade in California, small batch, artisanal, eco-luxury, and treating yourself to a memory-evoking evolution. Visit ianthemauro.com to discover your next favorite candle. Let the olfactory experience inspire cherished memories.